What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Talking to the Dog Benfica Podcast, episode number 216. Tonight, a little earlier in the week than usual. We've been bouncing back between Tuesday and Wednesday, but today we're here Monday because we wanted to give you plenty of time to listen to our preview to Napoli. With me tonight, Cristiano Oliveira.
Why don't you just tell people the truth? You wanted to give people another outlet instead of watching that dumbass debate.
That could be.
That's the real reason why we're doing it.
I don't want to get political, but as I tweeted, there's a circus, there's a clown show going on. You could always catch this on iTunes or some other place where this will be archived.
And with that said, we brought in our political analyst.
That's right. That's right. It's no surprise you guys know who he is. He's been making the rounds today, like a little girl from the night. This morning he was on Ebola, a nice interview by Ebola, and then he was on BTV later on during the day. Patrick Kendrick, what's going on, my friend?
I'm good, guys. I'm good. Just to let you know, I'm voting for Obama.
I got to tell you, between these two, I'd vote for anyone but these two.
I'd vote for Mario Suarez.
Vote Cristiano Oliveira.
Mario Suarez.
To the USA. Imagine that.
Luis Felipe Vieira.
But anyway, on tonight's podcast, we will look back at the Chaves game. We'll also look ahead to the Napoli game. That's why Patrick is here. As you guys know, Patrick is now living in Italy and covering Italian football, commentating on Italian football. So he's our expert previewer, if you will. Also, we'll look ahead to Benfica's next home game or next league game, which is at home against Feirense, which comes up this Sunday. So without further ado, let's get the festivities on the way. Benfica traveled to Trás-os-Montes to play Chaves up in the extreme northern part of Portugal. Chaves has just been promoted, so a very difficult game for Benfica. Chris and I were looking at the field dimensions, and
we Googled everything.
And the field just looked normal dimensions.
The dimensions of the field is as big as it's going to get.
But maybe it was the angle of the camera. But let me give you the lineup real quick. So we had Ederson in goal. Semedo, Grimaldo were on the wings. Lilo and Lindelof in the center of the defense. Feirense and Norta were in the midfield. Salvio Pizzi on the wings. Gedge and Mitroglou were up front. So quite a pretty standard lineup, Chris. I don't think there's any surprises here, with the exception of Ederson.
Yeah, I mean, that had to be one of these tactical decisions. And Patrick and I were talking prior to coming out here what the decision was going into that game, because we thought, at least I did, and that's why Patrick was asking, and we had this conversation. We thought that Julia was going to play the league games, Portuguese league games, that is, and that Ederson will get his experience in the UCL. And apparently that hasn't been he decided to go with Ederson in the league. That wasn't the decision he decided to go with. So I think we're a little bit surprised, but the kid's a good keeper, and it's not much of a difference in there when you have him or Julio Cesar. So I think he's just trying to get the kid's feet wet.
Yeah.
Guys, foi bom ano passado.
What's his name? Rui Vitória has said that that looks fine. It's just to us it looks like that, but to everyone else it looks fine.
Okay, Patrick, it looks fine, Patrick. The number graph, because they're backwards for me.
Yeah, it's backwards because
it's perfect for me.
I always switch, and you said, why switch that? It's like a mirror effect almost. But so let me just set up the game real quick. Tough game. Benfica goes in there. Chaves is a very well coached team, very well organized, and Chaves just sat in their midfield. Pressed Benfica quickly and didn't really let Benfica penetrate. There was very little spaces. The only time Benfica would get something going would be combinations on the wings, and that was very little. And then with the pressing, Chaves would press, Benfica would lose the ball, and in 3-4 touches, they were in the final third of Benfica. So it was quite a strategy by by Chaves.
They were set up very well defensively, and like you said, every time they recuperate the ball, 2-3 passes are on the opposition counterattack system. That's a coach that's got a lot of experience in the Premier League. Last year, he coached at Feirense, if I'm not mistaken, and they weren't one of these shock teams in the Liga Portuguesa, but they played pretty well last year. So this is a good young coach, up and coming coach, and the guy did a fantastic job this weekend against Benfica. I was surprised at the way that they played in the first half, because this being a team that just got promoted from the second division, a team that hasn't been in the Primera Liga since 1999, guys. That's a long time, a very long time. So you think nerves would kick in, and especially against the Tri Campeões of Benfica. Everybody knows about Benfica, and bro, you saw no effect. You saw that these players came out to play. They implemented the coach's tactics, and Benfica was very, very lucky not to head into halftime.
Absolutely,
down a goal or two.
Absolutely, you got two balls on the pipes in
the same play
right before the half, 5 minutes before the half, and then an open netter, an open look on goal that Chaves failed to capitalize.
And they paralyzed Benfica in the first half, because aside from the very early chance that Mitroglou shot just wide, I don't recall there being many chances for Benfica in the first half.
Well, he had that one goal that was called back.
That was offsides.
It wasn't offsides.
Oh, but the referee called it, so
it was even. But Benfica did struggle to penetrate. Perhaps a little bit of a strategy for the second half, where Rui Vitória stepped up Andre Horta a little bit more into the midfield, and that seemed to clean things up. Also, Salvio being taken out. I don't know what the heck is going on with Salvio.
The one thing I noticed in the first half, and I've said this here now a couple of times, especially early on in the season so far, Benfica is struggling to get the ball out and get the quickness out of their play. Salvio, Guedes, these guys, they put their heads down. Take one touch is too many, and you don't see that fluidity that we're accustomed to seeing Benfica play with that nice flow in it. And it was ugly. It was ugly. Salvi, we're glad that the guy's back to at least as close to 100% as possible, because he wouldn't be out there if he wasn't. Yeah. Glad that he's back. But as far as his performance, he lost that quick burst, that quick step that he used to have. It's no longer there. And so it was a great chance on Rui Vitória, and I'm not sure if you want to get into the second half here, but once he came out, you could tell Benfica kind of picked up their game. In the second half, they came in right in the first 20-30 seconds of the second half. They had a very good scoring opportunity that they could have taken the lead there. But it was once Salvio came out and Pizzi went to the right, eventually Serbi went to the left, and you could tell the team started to pick things up, and they had a little bit more ball possession. And again, it's sad to see Salvio play this way, because this is not the guy that we're accustomed to seeing. But I think this is not 1 week now, it's 2-3 weeks now that the guy struggled. And I think Rui Vitória needs to make that decision. I know it's a tough one, because he's wearing the captain's armband in Luizão's absence. He's the guy's a great, he's el representador de camisola. He's a fantastic group leader, but his performances just aren't there right now.
Here's the thing for me, right? So as I wholeheartedly agree with you that Salvi lost that explosive first step that he used to get past guys. But when it's not on, your decision making can't be put your head down and try to dribble 2-3 guys. Pass the ball off.
Quickness, 1-2 touches.
He affected Semedo's game, which didn't have that good of a half, because Salvi was just hanging him out to dry. He was taking people on. Semedo was pushing up on the field for the combination, and then was being caught out. So there was Salvio affected not only his performance and the team's performance, but he also affected Semedo. Now you got the change in the second half where Servi comes up. There was a couple variations, and players cycled through the positions, but Servi actually came out and he started in the right,
on the right side.
Guedes dropped a little bit to the left side, and Pizzi made the numbers in the middle, and that kind of helped Benfica getting balls in the middle and getting a little bit more possession in the middle. As you're looking at the graphic behind us, 77% possession for Benfica against 23% by Chaves. You got the same numbers of entries in the área adversária, or the
opposition box.
The opposition box. Adversary,
yeah.
I don't know what you were getting at. You were just looking at me. I was wondering what
I was waiting for you to help me.
I didn't know where you were going. I'm like,
same number of shots, which shows you that it was really blocked up for Benfica.
And we said it on Twitter. As soon as Serbi comes into the game, he did more in his first touch than Salvi did in the first 60 minutes of the game, because he played a quick ball into the box real quick, 1 touch, 2 touch, fed, I believe Mitroglou, if I'm not mistaken now. I don't recall, but I recall it was a very good scoring chance. And that's what I kept harping. And you keep saying every time we watch the game together, I talk all day. But I see these things, and I'm like, bro, why are they holding on to the ball? Yeah. And once they made that change, it's set off a spark, and Benfica was on their way to another victory. Well, and here's the other thing. And although it set off a spark, Benfica wasn't really creating goal scoring chances left and right. The goals come from dead ball situations. The first, a free kick by Grimaldo, who is an expert by now. We know that he's an expert in free kicks. He puts a very good ball. Cristiano, at the time, you thought it was a shot. I thought it was just he drove the ball into the box, waiting for somebody to what do you call it? Yeah, we sat there. We sat there and we argued because I said, dude, he's gonna bend it near post,
and I said it's too far.
It's too far, and I'm like, he's gonna bend the near post. Now you'd have to ask him. I mean, did he try to go near post and maybe missed a little bit? And who came in? Mitroglou got to the end of it. That's a question that's got to go to him. But I mean, a guy with that ability to put the ball where he wants, I really thought he was going to go near post.
Yeah, absolutely. But, it worked just as well. It was a very driven ball, and those are hard to defend against because all you need is a touch to just redirect the ball, and there it is. And sure enough. And then the second goal by Benfica, which was a few minutes later, was the same deal, but this one is a little closer. It was a free kick that Pizzi won. Right at on top of the box.
Questionable.
He made a little bit of a meal out of it. I think there's contact, but he made a little bit of a meal out of it. At the time, Cristiano and I were sitting. He's going to go underneath. He's going to go underneath.
I kept saying he's going because it's too close. Because you've seen him and Gez. They were having a conversation, and you're like, look, Gez is trying to convince him. I was like, I think he's saying he's going to go underneath. And I mean, look, Patrick. That's why I get paid the big bucks here on the Benfica podcast, because I call the first two substitutions. I call that free kick, so I get paid the big bucks, and that's exactly what he did. And ricocheted off of a Chaves player. And no, not a foot. The guy actually went down, and I think he blocked it with his back. Yeah, and it fell to Pizzi, who once again did not have one of his better games. And this guy always finds a way.
He had a better game.
The better second half, and especially when he got to the right side. Yeah. But Patrick, this is a player that disappears all game long, turns the ball over all game long, and then he finds himself on a score sheet at the end of the game, and you're like, oh, okay, we're blinded because he scored a goal. Like, the guy's on a score sheet. He must have had a good game. But this is a guy that's infuriating to watch at times, bro. Yep. It's just when he plays well, guys, I want to give him credit because now there's like this ongoing thing on Twitter. When is Chris ever going to give this guy credit? And I'll give him credit when he plays well, but he just goes missing from me way too much.
Yeah, David Pritchett had a good stat on him that so many games he already had so many goals and so many assists, which very productive. Really, his numbers. If you look at the stat sheet, his numbers don't really indicate how poorly and how many bad passes he makes, how many balls he loses.
Patrick is right now putting on his Pizzi shirt.
I just think he always looks very surprised when he scores, Pizzi. I noticed his celebration from the Braga game. He's just absolutely shocked. I couldn't believe it. But there you go.
One of the biggest disagreements I think Steve and I had here on the podcast was one of his goals. But I think he tried to bend it. He tried to put it on the right side, and it went the other way. And it was a beautiful goal. But I'm like, dude, the way he shot it, the form, the way he hit it, I don't think he was going there. Steve's like, yes, he was. I'm like, no, he was, dude. And that's what Pizzi does to us here on the podcast. Yeah, he's always a great point of conversation. As long as we talk about Pizzi, we can do 2 hours here.
Yeah. So Benfica, after scoring that second goal, and so this got to be said also. Chaves played at a very good first half. The second half, I think at the hour mark, they just lost steam. Obviously, if you press a team that hard the way they did, and then go on the counter with numbers, that's going to take a toll on you after a while. So that was it. I think that at the time that Benfica, that Chaves lost or ran out of gas, steam. That's when Benfica started moving the ball and getting further up the pitch.
I think the substitutions and the urgency that you have to win this game. You can't go on the road to Chaves. This is a team, like we said before, they just got promoted from second division. You can't drop points there. I think the urgency and the substitutions made a difference in this game. And, Pat, I know you've been busy traveling the world, but if you haven't seen Grimaldo play this year, he's at another level, man. He pretty much sent my boy Popsicle to the stands.
Wasn't Patrick the one that had his doubts about Grimaldo?
I don't know.
Oh, I've heard good things about Grimaldo this season. What I will say is I didn't see all the clamoring to put him straight in the team when he joined in January, when I was saying there's a reason why he's not playing. There's a reason why he wasn't even making the bench for the majority of the games. Either it was due to his fitness or Rui Vitória wanted to give him a bit more time to get settled. But I also don't think that Eliseo deserved to be dropped at that moment of the season. Now, it's another thing altogether. If you bring someone in from the start of the season, you've had a whole pre-season working them, working on the shape, working on the movements, etc. And I've heard very good things.
Pat, I think you and I were on the same page. I mean, when it came to that, because everybody that listens to
Steve was his biggest advocate.
Yes.
Steve, I think, was blinded by his love of Barcelona.
Yeah, but everyone that listens to the podcast, Patrick, knows I got a love affair with my boy Popsicle. I never said the guy's a world beater, but I thought it was unjust for him to go to the bench and get relegated from a kid that showed sparks, a kid in Grimaldo who showed sparks last year, who showed flashes of being a good player. He showed flashes,
towards the end of the season.
But again, this is a guy that we had to take into context that he was coming from Barcelona B. It wasn't he was coming from the main squad, and he just couldn't break. So you had to take all that into context.
Then again, Guardiola came from Barcelona B.
Yeah, but totally different, though. He got promoted to the 18. Guardiola wasn't let go. Guardiola never became a free agent. I mean, we're totally different scenarios here, guys.
Absolutely.
And Pep was the man, though. I used to like Pep. For a lot of people that just think of Pep as a coach and the BS between him and Mourinho, Pep was nice.
It's a hell of a player.
Really a hell of a player. And whatever. He was a nice player. Really nice player.
A tough win for Benfica. And I've seen people on Twitter about the Estrelinha de Sorte with those two balls that hit the posts. Yeah.
And the header.
You need that.
The ensuing header.
Sometimes you need that. I'm telling you right now, there's teams that are going to have a very hard time going up there. And when I say that, I'm talking about the other 2-3 teams.
But Alfredo, we say that every week.
Yeah.
I mean, I was fortunate enough to be in Tondela. And I remember tweeting through the Benfica podcast account saying...
Well, Porto had struggled.
No, but that's fine. But I said, if Tondela plays like this, there's no way that they're even fighting for relegation at the end of the year. They're going to finish in the top 10.
Where are they at?
But Porto is not the same Porto, guys.
Yeah.
I mean...
So, yeah. So,
Pat, why are you laughing?
Oh, because he was at the Tondela
just taken out of context. I was fortunate enough to be in Tondela. I mean, it's not like Monte Carlo or Rome or Venice. You just take it out of context.
You haven't been there, bro. That's why.
Tondela. Well, you did take me to Aveiro, didn't you? The Venice of Portugal. That was
nice.
The Venice of Portugal.
The Venice.
And what would you call Tondela? The Monte Carlo of the north?
No, there's no water anywhere near. There's no water over there. I don't know.
Are there casinos in Tondela?
No, there's nothing. There's a stadium and a couple bakeries, some real good pastéis de nata.
I think there's only a couple. There's only a couple casinos in Portugal, I think.
Estoril. I did go to Estoril, which is kind of nice.
And
there's one in Povo, Casino Povo, right?
Povo do Brasil, right?
Yeah.
But Benfica. But
so a tough win for Benfica. Benfica also tied a record, 15 consecutive away wins, tied their own record that was set back in 1972. 72-73 season. So that's my age.
And I'm glad you brought that up.
43 years. Jimmy Hagan.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to get Patrick involved here somehow because he's been mighty quiet. And I didn't want to jump ahead because I have a tendency of doing that. Everybody knows.
I know.
So I'm glad you brought it up, and that leads me to my next question. Patrick Kendrick, what are your thoughts on Rui Vitória? This guy is a guy that's much criticized by myself and a lot of other guys here on the podcast.
Not for me.
I said a lot of others. But the guy, he's still setting records. I mean, Aquino, the most points ever in the history of the Portuguese league, most points ever in Benfica. Now he's reaching this record of, at least he tied it, most consecutive wins on the road. I mean, what are your thoughts on Rui Vitória?
Well, I spent most of last season not only defending him on here, but also praising him. I think he's quite underrated, really. I understand that Jorge Jesus was a really fiery character and that he won a lot of things. And it's easy to believe the hype when someone is constantly ramming it in your face. I'm the best, me. And Rui Vitória is much more humble. And I think he did a fabulous job last year. And I know Benfica made a dodgy start, but they won 12 or 13 games to win the title in a row. The pressure there was enormous. He's bringing through young players all the time. You know, the fact that they were able to win the league last season, as you said, Chris, with record points total, make the quarterfinals of the Champions League when in previous seasons they'd done nothing in that competition, often dropping into the Europa League, and bring through some top-class youngsters, one of whom was sold on for huge money. I think it's absolutely brilliant job. Now, what I was trying to get across today on BTV, I don't know if I managed it, but I'm very curious to see whether he's able to have that same success domestically, because Benfica are obliged to win the league title, not only because they've won the last 3, but just because of who the club is. On top of that, you want to see them consolidate what they've done in Europe, so you're thinking at least get through the group stage. And there's still a number of these young players who we've seen coming through again. You know, he's only 17, but there's Zé Gomes, and you know, and then you want to see, can Nelson Semedo push on, can Gonçalo Guedes push on, and if he's able to do that again, there is no argument at all as to his ability. You know, people can still have their doubts now, I think, but invariably, I think he makes. You might say, okay, he gets his tactics wrong at the start. He doesn't set up properly. Why is it so often that you get to the hour mark and Benfica are struggling and you're wondering whether they're going to win the game? But often he makes good decisions with his substitutions.
It's true.
See, that's what pisses me off, though, Patrick, is that, like, now another example that people could throw out there. He brought on José Gomes. It's the same thing with Lindelof last year. He brought these guys on because the other 4 strikers were hurt. Right, they had no other choice.
All right, but in the past, you would have had JJ adapt the guy to that position.
Pizzi up front.
Pizzi at right back. He could play right back.
Put Pizzi wherever you want.
Somebody's at center back. Somebody's at center back.
But it's
Pizzi at 8. He would have never promoted Renato Sanches. Never.
And the kid only, whatever, dude. I don't want to get into this argument.
I know that you're saying it was out of necessity.
It was not like the kid started. You know, they did put Rafa and Guedes up top until Rafa gets hurt. Then Mitroglou miraculously gets back on the field. The kids play, 7 minutes? It's not like you know, we don't have anybody else.
That was just an example. I mean, the kid's 17. The kid's 17.
I'm not getting on you, Pat. I understand 100%. But I'm just using that. It's another one. It's one of those out of necessity. It's not like he said, you know what? I'm going to bench so-and-so because I want to give this kid a chance. And it's the same thing we saw last year with Lindelof. And it's like, fine, it's worked out from the numbers don't lie on his side, right? At the end of the day, it's about numbers. It's about wins and victories and points and titles. And all that's coming out, roses right now for him. But, I mean, the circumstances, guys. I mean, I can't praise you for playing Lindelof when everybody else was suspended and hurt.
You could have adapted somebody.
You could have. But
JJ would have adapted
But the guy was there from July, and he finally played his first game in February. And if you knew how good he was, because let's be honest, Patrick, you were there for every home game at least, and you saw every road game on TV. Lindelof was impressive as hell last year, and I had my doubts. But the kid was, and this year, the kid's going to be one of the highest, transfers to come out of Portugal now in the summer when he finally does leave.
No, in January, if he doesn't leave in January.
Yeah, exactly. If he doesn't leave in January, because Benfica does have 4 options.
Not that Semedo from Sporting. That guy's not going to be expensive.
No, because Sporting não precisa vender. Eles têm dinheiro a monte.
Anyway, so Benfica top of the table again, and now we're back at the luge. But before we get on to this weekend's game, let's turn our attention to the champions. Was that good?
That was beautiful, bro.
Nice.
I heard they're going to record that, cut that out, and just play it at the stadiums now.
Just on repeat for 90 minutes.
Yeah. That's going to be Benfica going to use it at home, bro.
So this coming Wednesday, Benfica will travel to southern Italy to play Napoli at the São Paulo. How do you say it, Patrick?
São Paulo.
São Paulo.
São Paulo.
Lo Stadio São Paulo.
Cazzo. São Paulo. Cazzo. Colpo di testa.
Very good. That means header for those of you out there that aren't familiar with it.
All the Italian that I know, I learned from watching the Serie A on Sunday mornings.
On 7:30 in the morning.
7:30 in the morning.
Every
about
Sunday.
25 years ago.
That's why I used to get my AC Milan from. Right. Shit was to be. Remember the antenna? It was real ugly. The picture would be. Oh man! But we had to watch it though. It's crazy.
Yeah, because it was local. All right, let's set this up. Napoli And match day 1, they beat Dynamo Kiev 2-1 in the Ukraine. Domestically, 4 wins, 2 ties, with one of those wins of a convincing win 4-2 over Milan. And Patrick, you've had a chance to watch Napoli since you're now in Italy. Talk us through, as far as domestically, what has Napoli been doing?
I say they play the best football in Italy. Juventus have won the league title for the last 5 years, but Napoli had a really good season last year under Maurizio Sarri. That was his first season as coach. He took over from having taken Empoli to a good mid-table finish. He brought Empoli, which is a rather unfashionable side in Tuscany. He got them promoted from Serie B, had a very good season playing an attractive brand of football with a 4-3-1-2, and then he got the job at Napoli. And his first season was a real success. They were in the title race until right towards the end of the season, helped by Higuain's goals. He scored 36 league goals, which was a record, an all-time record in Serie A, which is a notoriously tough league to score goals in. And this season, they look just as good, if not better. They've started really well. They're unbeaten, the only team in the division to be unbeaten. They're scoring goals. They're not conceding many. They're dominating matches. And I think they're going to push Juventus very hard. And I think they could win the title as well. I'd love to see them do it as well. I don't want to see the Bianconeri win the title again. And it will be great to see Napoli win what would only be a third league title. But there's a lot of promise in this team. And they've strengthened as well. They signed 7 players over the summer, albeit we've only seen 2 of those so far, one of whom was Zielinski, who was at Udinese and then made a big breakthrough with Empoli last season. And the other one is Milik, the Poland striker, who's replaced Higuain.
Yeah, so everybody knows that the one main player that they lost was Higuain. Who else did they lose that was that important to the team, Patrick?
I mean, the team is very similar to the one they had last season. The back 4 is very settled. The fullbacks, Hussein on the right, the Albanian, he was at the Euros, Gulam on the left, the Algerian, and then they have Koulibaly, who was linked heavily with a move to Chelsea in the summer. Conte really wanted him, but he stayed, and he's going to sign a new contract. They've got Albiol, who you guys might know from his Real Madrid days.
Been around for a while. Yeah. Valencia days, absolutely. He's been around for a while.
Yeah.
And and then in midfield, Marek Hamšík still going strong. Just scored his 100th career goal for Napoli the other day, so he's moving within sight of Maradona as the all-time top scorer.
Wow.
And then Insigne, who's the local hero.
Pat, a couple of things that I want to ask you about. One is I don't really care about last year's team. I'm worried about this year's team.
Yeah, sure.
Talk to us about their head coach. I mean, this is a guy, he's a little kamikaze. According to reports, he loves to play the 2-5-3 system. Guy just loves to attack all game long. Give us a little bit more insight into him.
Yeah, he only has one way of playing, really. It is a very exciting brand of football. It's very tactical, and that's been one of the suggestions why 5 of these 7 new signings haven't been involved as yet. So just to run through this, he signed a guy, a Croatian, Marko Drog, who's rated very highly. Lorenzo Tonelli, who he worked with at Empoli, is a sort of rugged centre-back. They spent big money on another centre-back, Nicola Maximovic from Torino. He hasn't seen any playing time yet. Giaccherini, who had a good Euros with Italy, scored that goal against Belgium, who's a sort of hard worker but lacks a bit of quality. So those are some of the signings. And then the other one is Diawara, a young player who we haven't seen anything of yet, but who's been really impressive for Bologna. He's a central midfielder. So the suggestion is that he does so much work on the training ground that it takes months for these players to really assimilate his ideas and really buy into his philosophy. So that 4-3-3 is a very well-oiled machine. Jorginho really is the playmaker in there. And then there's a lot of mobility from the likes of Hamšík. The only question mark I'd have in that side is probably 2. Is one with Alan, who might be replaced by Zielinski, who's a bit more mobile than Alan. Alan's the sort of water carrier, the stopper in the middle of the park. And the other one is Mertens and Insigne. They're quite interchangeable. But yeah, Sarri is fantastic. There's so much movement off the ball. Everyone knows what they're doing. You'll see so many dummy runs, players stretching the pitch to allow the player on the ball to have as many options as possible, either to drive into the space or plenty of passing lanes. You'll see them move the ball so well, and there's just a lot of interchanging of positioning. The fullbacks will push on high. Some of the wider two in the midfield three will then stretch the pitch, and that will allow the two wide forwards to come inside. Milik will come short for the ball. It's a really impressive brand of football. It's not something we're particularly used to seeing in Italy either, where the tendency is to be defensively solid first and then go from there. I mean, there was a huge contrast at the weekend where Juventus struggled to a 1-0 win over Palermo, and they were poor. They won by 1-0 with an own goal. And Napoli beat Kiev 2-0, but they had the game won by half-time.
Now, Patrick, this Jorginho was the Brazilian kid that came from Verona, right? I believe.
Exactly.
Benfica, it's funny that you mentioned it. That's why I asked about it, because Benfica was linked with them last season. Very good playmaker in the midfield. So that's the reason why I asked. But my second part of the question was, you actually beat me to the punch, which was I saw you tweet, and I saw other Italian Serie A reporters tweeting about, I don't want to call it a controversy, but the disagreement with what's going on at Napoli and the new players coming in, and they have so many games. I believe you said 7 and 20 days. And these guys are getting tired out, and a lot of people criticizing his squad rotation. And I think you just answered all that. But that was going to be my second question.
Yeah, I find it very interesting that out of all the guys that they brought over the summer, it's a considerable number for 7 players, that they're only getting sporadic playing time, which shows that, I mean, there's a certain confidence in the familiarity that the older players have. I mean, you're looking at this lineup, which is a projected lineup that Patrick gave us. And I mean, you got players in here.
But Milik is new, right, Pat? Milik's his first year.
Milik's come in.
He's getting a lot of playing time.
He scored 6 goals already, yeah. He's the main striker. The other option is Gabbiadini, who's good, but who's not an out-and-out centre forward. And Gabbiadini's really been struggling for confidence. But interestingly, he scored his first goal of the season against Kiev on Saturday night. I've commentated on Napoli twice already. I'm actually doing their game next weekend after the Benfica game away at Atalanta, and they're just a real joy to watch at times. Callejon scored 5 goals in 6 games. He only got 7 league goals in all of last season. Milik has scored 6 goals, but in 3 games. So he's scored 2 goals every time he's found the net, including 2 in Kiev. So if he gets 1, be careful, because he might get 2. Just purely going on the statistics. But I think, there has been a bit of controversy. They dropped points against Genoa in the midweek round. It's been a busy time in Serie A because of the heat and just because of tradition, really. The league season starts a bit later than the other major European leagues, which means they've already had to catch up a game. That's why we had that midweek round. So it meant that for the teams playing in Europe, the likes of Juventus, Napoli, Roma, Inter, they were all playing seven games in 21 days, because you had 3 weeks of midweek games, because you had a European round, and then a Serie A midweek round, and then another European round. But I think as long as he keeps winning, it doesn't really matter what team he picks. He can. I mean, there's a lot to be said for consistent team selection. However, if you're playing 38 league games, you're going through to the latter stages of the Champions League, so we're talking about at least 8 games. The domestic cup in Italy is quite light, to be honest. The teams get a bye through to the last 16. They won't be involved until December. So that's slightly different. It's not like when you have 2 cups, like in Portugal or France or England, etc. But even if you're playing 50 games, I think it's a big workload to ask, and you are going to have injuries and things. But in the early part of the season, when they're trying to pick up points and they're trying to really hammer home how they're playing, I think as long as he keeps getting wins, it is frustrating for the president. You know, he's clearly been asked to go out and make this investment in all these new players, and they've done so. Mm-hmm. And I saw graphics in the Italian press where they put 2 Napoli sides alongside one another, and they were 2 very strong sides. You know, they do have a valid alternative in every position now, but he clearly knows his best 11.
I'll tell you who I'm surprised in is Callejon. This is a kid that showed some flashes also at Real Madrid. Then Benitez goes into to Sao Paulo, brings him in, brings in Pepe Reina, brings in Albiol. Once Benitez leaves, I'm like, I think Callejon's going to be in trouble to find playing time. And the guy's, he's excelled under the new coaching staff. So I tip my cap to him. This is a player, like I said, that didn't really get that much playing time because he had the likes of Benzema and Cristiano Ronaldo on the wings at Real Madrid, and I'm glad that he's shown that he could actually play at this level here for
Patrick,
Napoli.
Let me ask you a question. You're obviously familiar with Napoli. Where do you think Napoli could hurt Benfica?
Down the wings, I think. I expressed some doubts over Nelson Semedo's defensive ability at several occasions last year on the Benfica podcast, you might recall. And that is still the area of his game that he needs to improve. He's good going forward. All right, he's a modern fullback. You want him to get forward. But I think for me, the most important thing is the first role should be how they defend. And he's going to be coming up against either Dries Mertens or Lorenzo Insigne, probably both, because whoever of those two starts, they'll come off on the 65th, 70th minute. It's one of Sarri's standard substitutions. If Insigne starts, he'll come off after 70 minutes, Mertens will come on, or vice versa. So that will be an interesting matchup, as will be Callejon on the opposite side against Grimaldo. So I think that could be an area where Benfica could struggle, Napoli could hurt them certainly. And I also want to see how Mitroglou handles himself against Koulibaly, who's very physical, who's quite quick, but he is prone to the odd lapse in concentration. So it's going to be, I expect to see Napoli with more of the ball. I expect to see Napoli dominating the match as the home side. But it's about Benfica being able to exploit those moments when Napoli just drop in concentration, and that will happen.
I'm actually very excited to see the kid Andrea Horta going up against Hamsik and Jorginho in the middle tomorrow. On Wednesday, I should say. It'll be very interesting because I think for some of us that still have doubts about Grimaldo defensively, not going forward because I think those doubts have been put to bed, but defensively, we'll find out against Callejon and Mertens because these guys will be rotating. That's going to be a big test.
Trial.
And the same thing with guys like Horta playing against the caliber players and Jorginho and Hamsik and even Allen. That's going to be a very, very tough matchup for him. And I want to see what's going to happen.
Chris, looking at the setup that Patrick gave us and assuming that this is the right setup and I wouldn't have no issues in doubting what Patrick gave us, do you see Vitória changing something up in order to combat that three-man midfield?
The only thing I can see him doing is dropping Guedes maybe a little bit into the middle to clog up the middle because I think he's going to play with Mitroglou up top. You're going to have Pizzi on one side. And the question is going to be what happens with Salvio because of his inconsistencies that we talked about prior. Is he going to go with Servi? Is he going to go with Carrillo? So I think that's going to be that's definitely one of those switches that we have to keep an eye on. Yeah. Because if he makes a change there, I won't be surprised. But then again, Salvio's a guy that could also exploit them down the wings. It'll be very interesting. But I think.
You think he's going to make numbers with Guedes in the middle?
I think because he did that. He did that in Tondela. When the going got tough, he dropped Guedes into the midfield because Tondela was doing a good job of pressing the ball and keeping possession of the ball and just kept Mitroglou up top by himself. And then eventually wound up being Jimenez. I think that's exactly what he'll do tomorrow. I think you're going to see the same lineup we saw this weekend.
With the exception of Salvio, no?
Salvio is the only question mark. I mean, I don't know. Salvio's a question mark. I mean, if he
does, Cesar going in.
Oh, exactly. I'm sorry about that. Exactly. That's a definite change. But the whole Salvio thing, I mean, it's going to require a lot out of him to track back and help out Smithu. And so tomorrow might be one of those switches. I mean, if you want to put it Andre Almeida in there to clog up the right side and help out Smith, but I just don't see him doing it because you got Servi, he's tiny. You might play him on the left side. Then you got two tiny dudes, Grimaldo and Selvia on the left side. Right. And let's be honest, he hustles and everything. And I know the first game against Besiktas, he led the team in tackles or whatnot. But I don't think his strongest suit there is defensively. And like we talked about before, Smith is going to need help defensively. So that's the one position right there.
Patrick, besides the occasional lapse in concentration and drops in concentration level, what are some of the weak points of this Napoli team, if they have any?
Pepe Reina.
Pepe Reina is exactly one of them. Struggles from long shots in particular. He's looked a bit unconvincing at times. I mean, he's in that team mainly because of his experience, because he's a very good dressing room leader. This is the most popular guy in the team, by the way. He has an unbelievable relationship with the fans. He's a leader in the dressing room. But Reina has looked a bit suspect at times. he's in the team because he's good with his feet and they play a passing style. But I think Benfica could definitely cause them some problems if they try their luck from distance.
Right. So we'll just have to see. But to me, definitely the hardest match for Benfica in this group stage is in Italy against Napoli, a team that just like Benfica are favorite to move on to the knockout stages. So
just
we'll
one final thing, if I may.
Yeah.
I think that Talisca goal is going to have a big impact on how this game goes, because if you look at the group, you have to go away to Naples, you have to go away to Kiev, and you have to go away to Istanbul. I mean, in terms of places to go on away trips, I mean, Napoli aside, these aren't European footballing powerhouses with the greatest of respect to Besiktas, etc. But had Benfica won that first game, you could feasibly say to them, you go to Naples, you set up, you try and get a point. If you lose the game, it's not the end of the world. If you lose this game on Wednesday as a Benfica player, as a Benfica fan, you're suddenly on 1 point after 2 games. Napoli are on 6, and it's going to be very difficult for you then to win the group. Napoli are the front runners for winning the group. So I think Benfica are going to come out and play a bit more. And the way Napoli play as well, it is conducive to that sort of game. I think we're going to see a very open game. I'm really looking forward to it.
Patrick, I said it when the draw came out that this group was up for grabs. I mean, you could pick any of the 4 teams, and if you tell me they were to advance, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. Because like you mentioned, going to Besiktas is very tough. Going to Kiev is no walk in the park. And obviously, going to Sao Paulo, that's going to be very tough. So, I mean, even if Benfica would have gotten the 3 points, I still think it would have been very rough to get out of this group. So, very tough matchup tomorrow. And they definitely at least need to go out there. And if they could walk away with a draw, I think they'd be pleased.
Yeah, I think that the key, especially after giving up a point at started to lose against Besiktas, I think the key in Italy is to take a point, because, like Patrick said, if you lose this game, you still got very tough games in Turkey and another tough game in the Ukraine, and then you got Napoli closing off the group stages. So it's going to be tough, and we'll see what that giving up that 1 point to Besiktas in that match day 1, how that's going to affect. But I'm willing to bet that in the end we're going to need those 2 points.
Agree, 100%. But listen, we can't let Patrick off the hook, bro. I mean, you kind of seem like you're about to wrap things up. Patrick, we need a prediction here, bro. We need to know what's up. Yeah, come on, what do you need? Why?
You're putting the man on the spot.
Why is that?
He's saying that Napoli's going to win.
So he can say it. He's within his right to say it.
Yeah, I don't want to be
Napoli 2, Benfica 2.
Look at that. That's a minute.
Estás maluco, Patrick.
A nice 4-goal thriller in the Champions League. Why not?
Patrick, I'm actually predicting the same 4 goals, but it's a 3-1 scoreline to the home side.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I don't remember the last time I came on here and Chris actually predicted a Benfica win. Mr. Negative every time.
Yeah, we'll get tons of crap.
It's worked. Patrick, it's been working. We were champions. I'm going to keep it up.
We'll get tons of crap on Twitter, but I got to be honest. I think that this Napoli team is very, very strong. I think it's going to be a test for this Benfica team, perhaps the hardest test of the season. I think that there's a lot of young players there, such as Grimaldo, like Chris said, they're going to be tested. They're going to be
not just
tested.
that. There's a lot of Benfica. It was at least in group. What is it? Group game 1? What was it called?
Match day 1.
Match day 1.
Match day 1. Benfica was the youngest team in the Champions League. A lot of these guys, you take away Julio Cesar and Luizão, the majority of the lineup doesn't have much experience at this level. And this is a big matchup in a very intimidating, venue, a very intimidating arena, stadium, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be a tough ask of these kids tomorrow. To go out there.
Keep saying tomorrow, bro.
Whatever, Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. Well, these people are going to listen to this tomorrow, so then it'll be tomorrow because it'll be Wednesday. Yeah, exactly. Because right now they're all watching the debate. So I think it's going to be a very tough ask of these guys with no experience. They played a couple games last year, but it's 2, 3, at most 4 games. 5 games. Maybe Pizzi's got a couple more, but he's probably him. Well, Mitroglou is at Fulham in Czech Olympiacos. But whatever, yeah. But still, nonetheless, the two most experienced guys,
Yeah.
Luis Owen and Cesar.
I got to be honest, and there's in past podcasts where we've been negative and really were saying that the team was going to lose. The team ends up winning, and then we get ripped to shreds on Twitter. So, my feelings is that I think that, like I was saying, Napoli is very strong. We're going to be tested. I'll see what Benfica is made of, but the outlook is not the best. Playing at in southern Italy against a team who has yet to lose a game domestically or internationally, so it's going to be tough.
We haven't either. Benfica hasn't lost a game domestically neither.
Yeah, but we're playing Chaves. We're playing,
Besiktas,
for this
Braga.
Yeah, I mean,
whooped on Braga.
I think we're capable of getting a win.
I won't be surprised.
Well, we got to play well.
I wouldn't be surprised if Benfica was to go out there and bring back the 3 points. But at the end of the day, I think it's a very, very tough ask.
Yeah, it's a tough ask, but you got to believe in the team and believe in Vitória. I'm just curious to see how that he's going to set up that midfield, because those three guys, and I've seen a little bit of Napoli play. Those three guys in the midfield, they're in sync, man.
One thing I know for sure, is we won't see him invent like JJ used to. All right, David Luiz left back, and
no
vai ser nada disso.
No.
No.
If anything, he'll adjust so that Pizzi always drops into the middle to make up the numbers
and bring Guedes back to the right wing.
Yeah, exactly. Make the number and balance the team that way. I don't see it. I don't see him all of a sudden pull Andre Almeida and make Andre Almeida the third midfielder. I don't. Vitória is not that type of guy. I do think that he's going to make adjustments. He's going to make adjustments based on what he's going to be facing, and he's got to set up strategically to be able to hold off this Napoli team. I don't think he's going in there with just Feirense running all over the field, and then Horta, especially Horta, who's immature, and the second game of the Champions League.
Can't say he's immature. I don't know the guy personally.
Verde, man.
But that's not immature.
But he's green.
He's raw.
He's raw. Thank you, Patrick. Patrick is going to help us out in Italian, English. The guys.
But if you talk about football-wise, he is immature,
inexperienced, and raw. Immature, don't know. I mean, immature, 19 years old and Benfica at that age.
Immature, I guess. It has to do with attitude, I guess, if you want to say so.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll retract that. I'll definitely say raw. So we'll just have to see. Patrick, will you be calling the game? You're going to be at the game, correct?
I'm going to be at the game. I'm going to be I'm going to be with the Napoli fans. I'm afraid I'm in the stand behind the goal, because I wrote to the Napoli press office, and they were less amenable than some of the other clubs who I've contacted. But yeah, I'm afraid I'm going to have to pay for a ticket. But so be it. I can say I will be at the return match at Estádio da Luz in December, which is the same week as Sporting, and Chris has told me that he's going to be there as well.
You know who's going to be there for sure? Timo. He's already booked this trip.
What's going when?
December 11th, and then December 14th, I believe, is the match day against Naples.
We're going in April.
The Sporting game is the first one of the games that has yet to be decided on the kickoff time.
Yeah, which is crazy. They haven't decided yet. Exactly, Patrick, because I researched all that.
We're going in April. The big group of us going in April. Yeah. That's the plan.
Patrick's coming too.
I will be there too.
Patrick's coming too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like $25 for him to fly Ryanair. Come on, dude. I spend more than that going out and getting a beer here.
Hey, Patrick, you don't have any more contacts over at Benfica that could hook you up with a ticket? Maybe
I asked, but it's away games. They can't really do it. But actually, the guy who I spoke to from Abola, Nuno Paralves, or Nuno Palavras, as I like to call him. He told me he could have sorted me out, but by then the ticket was already done. So I'll be going with my girlfriend and her mother, who's a big Napoli fan. Poster of Diego Maradona in the house.
All the women just left the pod. Everybody, all that just left YouTube. All the women just left. Freaking Patrick. Way to do it, Pat.
No, anyway. Yeah, but that article in Ebola said that he had a girlfriend, that he was going to the game.
You know, I tried reading.
Line 2.
Public knowledge.
I couldn't read. Yeah, but the ones in America right now watching this, they don't read the ball. I couldn't read that.
They don't know how to read.
In like, oh, yo, guys. When I zoom in, and I couldn't see it well enough, man. Did you have the same
user
problem?
error?
Oh yeah. Now
I read it this morning
I'll
with
send
one
you a
eye open
PDF,
in
Chris.
bed.
Thank you, Patrick. No, because
In bed with one eye open. With one eye open, I read that thing and I could read it perfectly. I don't know what's going on with you.
Patrick. Maybe I got to do it on my computer.
Maybe you have to do it with your computer. Anyway, let's turn our attention now to Feirense. Benfica plays Feirense this coming Sunday at Chris.
No sei ninguém, no conheço ninguém.
Day game, 4 p.m.
I hate day game.
4 p.m. local at Estádio de Luz. Feirense.
Feirense is down in Algarve, right?
No.
Yeah, Feirense.
Santa Maria da Feira.
I don't know where it's from.
That's
Santa Maria
Feirense from Faro. Where is Santa Maria da Feira? Where's that?
Yeah, look that up. Santa Maria da Feira. Feirense is in 9th place with 9 points from 3 wins and 3 losses. Last 5 head-to-head against Benfica, 4 wins for Benfica, 1 tie for Feirense.
Can't see.
I don't
Can't see.
Epa, zoom that in.
I did.
But anyway, so it's a game at Stade de Luge. I'm concerned only because of the hangover from the Champions League. I'm hoping that the Champions League game, whatever the outcome is, doesn't affect this Feirense game.
As far as Fora, I'd be a little bit more concerned. It's home. I think they'll be all right.
Especially that because it's home. It could be a banana peel of a game or what are we trap game, and especially ahead of
the trap game will be the Chaves game
ahead of an international game, an international break. All those things you got to take into consideration. So let's see what happens in Napoli, how that leaves the team, and then ahead of an international break, we have to get the win against Feirense. I don't think Rui Vitória has a problem in getting guys focused for these games.
I think they'll be all right.
So we'll just have to see. Patrick, so what you been up to, man?
I've been here and there. I went to
where can people hear
France. I went to France for the Euros. People can hear me. I'm on the international feed, so it's taken by a number of channels. I know Peggy was telling me that they be in Australia take it. I know that in South Africa, for those listening from South Africa, it's channels like Super Sport and things like that. But Middle East is big with beIN Sport. I think beIN in the US don't take us because they've got the hugely successful duo of Dre Cordero and at the Calcio guy, so they don't need us. So I don't know where you can hear us in the US if you can, but I'll be around somewhere. If you're creative enough and you find a stream, you'll be able to hear me.
I said, cut them off. Cut them off. Cut him off.
Why?
You didn't mention ball breakers. Cut him off. Cut him off. That's it.
Hey, you could also find.
Brittany we're finding him. That's it. He's getting fined.
You could also find Patrick on ball breakers when he's around.
Could you imagine a Sportingista not mentioning Sporting? Bruno Carvalho, demote him to the second team. Relegated. That's it. Patrick's getting relegated.
He's your partner.
I'm an occasional. I should be more regular on ball breakers.
You're an occasional ball breaker.
Absolutely. Chris has been having an easy ride of it recently.
That's right. Patrick, it's all that NBA talk, man. I know you're feeling, man.
No more.
That was the last one I think I did. Yeah, it turned me off all the too much US sports. I'm like, what are we here for?
Did you check out? Patrick checked out halfway through that podcast. He checked out.
No, Patrick. Let's tell a true story here. No, I'll leave it for later.
Anyway. So that's it. That's it for the show. Thank you very much for checking us out. Thank you very much, Patrick, for being here. Hopefully, in the return leg, we could do something.
Yeah, we got to do this more often.
Absolutely.
Since Patrick now is in Italy and he keeps up to date with Italian teams, it'll be a good resource for us to have to contact Patrick. At Patrick Kendrick with 1K in there. At Steve Santos at 10CO10 at Benfica Podcast, benficapodcast.com, planetbenfica.co.uk. Who else do we need to shout out?
Steve Santos is like Patrick on the ball breakers. They're never there on a Benfica Podcast. Steve's never around.
Maybe we could do a swap.
Last minute for Steve Santos. Steve Santos is back. He did come back with, 10 kilos. 10 kilos a mais. So he's going to have to go on the Tarap diet before he could come back on the podcast. He's not game fit yet.
What's the latest on Tarat? What's he got?
He was never going to wear a Benfica
4 years
jersey.
left of his contract.
4 years, and the president said he will never wear a Benfica shirt again.
Never wear a Benfica shirt
So
again.
what's he practicing with?
Sei lá.
White Fruit of the Loom.
Eles jogaram pau com os ursos.
Him and that other kid, Chico,
No,
whatever.
that kid still plays.
No, he's not.
He's not playing?
No, because they just brought back I forget the kid's name, dude. Forget whatever. They just integrated one of a kid that Sassin. I don't know, is it Sassin?
Sansidin? No, man.
No,
they lent the guy.
Trust me, dude. They just integrated one of those kids that was on a B team last year. They tried to find a place for him. They couldn't find the place. So he was practicing on the side with Olio Buccio, whatever his name is, Cheek and Tarapt. And now the only two remaining is Tarapt and that Belgian kid or Dutch kid, whatever he is.
I don't know. It's still young.
Let's wrap it up.
Anyway, thanks a lot for checking us out.
Appreciate it.
We'll be back next week. We'll recap the Napoli game and the Feirense game.
Hopefully, I'll be eating some crow.
And then it'll be international break. We're probably going to take a break as well.
Yeah, get Steve back to 100% as close as possible.
Steve needs to work extra hard. Peixinho delgado. And that's it. Ensalada.
Peace out, everybody. Thank you for
Patrick,
the support.
thank you as
Cheers,
always.
guys. See you soon.
We had no one watching this live. I don't know if
one person.
Maybe I set it to private or something. I don't know.
Yeah, we got to check it out.
Anyway, you will find this on YouTube and iTunes.
Peace.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.